Hey kids, it's me, Grandma again, and I have another story for you, one that you'll remember for years to come. This is from your great great grandmother. So it was my grandmother, Raffaella. And the story is back in the 1930s during the time of the Great Depression, Grandma had many children. In total, she had 18 children. And right now, you might not know, but back then, babies were born in the hospital, um, like today. But back then, when people had no money, many times they had babies at home. And sometimes the babies survived, and sometimes they didn't because they didn't have help. It was a very, very difficult time for many. And Grandma had 18 children. 11 of them survived up until Uncle Alex. Uncle Alex, he passed away from kidney disease when he was, I think, 11 years old. But she was going through a rough time, and we all do. We go through rough times, and it was a rough time. A lot of people having rough times, no food, no money, no jobs, and people living in tight quarters together just to make it through those times. And I remember my grandmother saying that she was going to church and she saw a brother of the church that was in need. And she felt in her heart that he was in need more than she was, even though she had so many children. And she had $5 on her. That was all she had. And Grandma, she gave the money to this man. And while she gave the money to him, she felt good about doing it, but at the same time, she was concerned because that was money back in those days that $5 could get you milk and eggs and bread and stuff, and she needed food for her own family. So she just quietly prayed as she walked away, and she says, God, I know I did the right thing. I know that he needs this money more than I do. And you know that I need provision for my children. And while she was praying, she felt the wind blow. The Michigan fall winds were blowing, and she felt what she thought was a leaf fall into her hand. But it wasn't a leaf. It was a $5 bill. Believe it or not, it is true. And later on, I'll have to share the poem. I don't know where it is right now because, Grandma just moved. But when I find the poem, I wrote the poem in honor of my grandmother and what she did in listening to what the Spirit of God inside of her said, which was to give to someone that was poorer than her. And God blessed her and gave back. And I know at the end of the poem I wrote for my grandmother, it says, you get back what you give when you cast your bread on the water. So always keep that in mind when you feel it on you to give and you're worried about how's it going to come back. Just know that, like the water behind me, if you cast your bread on the water, God will somehow bring it back to you. And I know that that was the example she left me. So blessings, my young ones, my children, my grandchildren. And remember, this is from your great grandmother, Raffaella DeFalco. All right. Good night, guys.